All right, joining me now on Inside the Tournament, called games for TBT last year, Jake Marsh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me back, Andrew. Excited to talk all things TBT now that I have some firsthand experience under my belt.
Absolutely. I think there's really only one place to start when it comes to calling TBT games because you've called a bunch of sports, a bunch of tournaments, a bunch of events. The Elam Ending. How did that compare to other events? What were your thoughts on it? Let's just open up the dialogue right there.
Yeah, totally. I think selfishly as a broadcaster, it was cool because even if it was a blowout, you were going to get an exciting finish and some sort of wild way for a game to end. Like there were some blowouts that I did, but it was really cool because there was still the anticipation, right? If it's a no offense to our guy Joey Lane, but if it's a blowout in a college game, the only anticipation is the walk-on going to score. But here, it's who's going to score the game-winning bucket? How are they going to score it? Is it going to be a dunk? Is it going to be three? Is it going to be a breakaway alley-oop? Like who knows? So that adds a whole other layer to the end of games that you're not used to seeing in college ball in the NBA.
How about Rupp Arena getting to call a game in there? How cool is that for you?
It was really cool, but the biggest takeaway is something that I didn't realize until afterwards. And Joey, he's the one I got to call the games with. He told me about the Rupp Arena ice cream, and I was like, "What? This is so random." But I did it, and he was not wrong. It was amazing.
Yeah, that I had the ice cream. I couldn't really pinpoint what was different about it, but it was great. It was delicious. My favorite part of TBT is like the drives and the in-betweens and finding the restaurants and finding the different places. So for you, what was your TBT experience like? Because you were in Kentucky and then you were in Ohio. So walk me through kind of like if you did a day in the life of being a TBT broadcaster, what that would have looked like.
Yeah, totally. I think well the first part was a 3 hour plane delay, so that was nice. But we're being transparent here. Everyone's got travel issues. Mine just so happened to be while I was traveling to TBT. So that's how things started from Florida to Lexington. Then I got into Lexington very late night, the night before the game. Woke up, got breakfast with Joey, headed to Rupp Arena, got to meet everyone, settle in. Got to meet some of the players, coaches, did those two games, got the Rupp Arena ice cream, and then hopped right in the car. We went straight from Lexington, drove, I don't remember what it was, like an hour and a half, 2 hours to Dayton-ish. So we did that. We stopped for dinner in Cincinnati with my former coworker, Reegs, who's a big college basketball and TVT guy. Got to fill him in on my first Rupp experience. And then woke up and did it all over again. Joey and I ran 2 games back. We nearly had one of the biggest upsets. I mean, you'd be the historian over me, but one of the biggest upsets probably in tournament history. It was I forget the name of the 8 seed, but it was one of the 1 seeds. Heartfire. They almost lost.
Yeah,
LaFonso
defending
Ellis's team.
champs.
Yeah, they were defending champs, and I forget the name of the 8 seed. Makes me sound dumb, but I'm gonna try to pull it up. But they had him the whole game. It was crazy. And I was thinking, wow, this is a big deal that uh one of the top teams was it Rise and Grind? I think it was Rise and Grind.
It sounds right.
Yeah, Rise and Grind. They had Hardfire's number for the majority of this game. And we were all thinking, oh my God, is this really going to happen? And Joey and I selfishly were very excited for just a close game. Obviously, we're impartial, but the 3 previous games we had were blowouts. So for us just to get some excitement was awesome.
How did the access for you compare? Obviously, it's a little different. It's not like you necessarily met with coaches and players ahead of time. Maybe you reached out to a few, but once you're there, like the gym's open, players are coming in and out. So what did you think of the access to the players, coaches, et cetera, leading up to your game?
Yeah, totally. It's so much different than uh, calling a college game because usually for college, you got to run through the SIDs and you have to jump through a few extra steps. But here it's just like all systems go. I remember the Wofford team, what was it, Woco Showtime or something? I think that's the official name, but the Wofford alumni team in their layup lines, we were getting ready for the broadcast, and their best player, Fletcher McGee, got hurt last minute. And then one of the players came over to us and FaceTime Fletcher McGee because he wanted to talk to us. So that was pretty cool. You're not going to get that before a Big Ten game where one of the best players who's out is just FaceTiming you before the game. So yeah, I like the looseness of all of that.
Yeah, it's cool to see random stuff like that happen. And then, like Joey always tells me, bumps into people. He's like, I didn't know you were involved in TBT. So there's
Yeah.
always random people that pop up on the bench that you don't expect. But all right, so you called those TBT games. You had a great experience. Hopefully you'll be back in the booth next year. But what does life as a broadcaster look like for you right now? What do you have coming up? What have you done so far? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm coming off a couple of games with FAU. I just, since moving on from part of my take, I've gone all in on broadcasting and moved back home to South Florida. So I've gotten some reps with them on the college basketball side, some PGA Tour stuff last summer and the coming year. Made my debut on the Golf Channel, and then I'm really excited for when's this airing?
It's going to air sometime around your big tournament. So
Okay, so I don't know when you're listening to this, but Monday the 25th of November and Tuesday the 26th, I'm excited to make my CBS Sports debut. Um, 4 games, the Sunshine Slam on CBS Sports Network. It's a 14 bracket with the championship and consolation the next day. We've got Penn State, Clemson, Fordham, San Francisco. So some high quality teams, some great matchups. Of course, Clemson went to the Elite Eight last year. Penn State's on the rise with Mike Rhodes and his staff. San Francisco was a tournament team a couple of years ago, and Fordham, I saw they beat Seton Hall at the buzzer a couple of weeks ago. So I think there's a lot of excitement around these 4 teams, and they're all teams that you can look back in March and think that these games could definitely stick out for all good reasons when it comes to the selection show.
yeah, I think what's Penn State scored like 200 points in all their
Yeah,
games
they
so far, something
they
crazy.
they've dominated some America East teams, UMBC, Binghamton. They have one more game, but listen, obviously, again, we don't root for teams, but we want these teams to be as hot as possible heading into our tournament. So the buzz is palpable.
So TBT aside, because I know that the Elam Ending and TBT would be your answer. What's like your favorite moment to call? Is it, a putt to win a tournament? Is it 10 seconds left on the clock? A guy's got a ball, or Elam Ending, similar mindset. Like, what for you are you locked in? They show during March Madness those like announcer
Yeah,
cameras that are like right
yeah,
underneath
like Kevin
them.
Harlan in the Furman, Virginia game a couple of years ago.
Exactly. What's like that moment for you that gets you excited?
Yeah, it's a March Madness buzzer beater. I mean, March Madness is by far my favorite event in the world. And a lot of people say like if they want to do college basketball, they want to do a Final Four, which of course I would love to do one day, and that's the dream. But there's nothing like the first round of the tournament. Like being able to having the potential chance to do 4 games in one day, where it's a 4 seed versus a 13, and then right after that finishes, you continue with the 12-5 game, and then the night cap is like a 116, which like you never know what could happen, and then an 8-9 game is always a toss up. I think the chance to do that marathon in 4 games in one day, not only 4 games, but 4 games where the world is watching every single second, that would be really, really cool.
I don't know how to make it happen other than more tournaments, but we need more of the back-to-back announcer games. Like in
Yeah.
the Champions Classic, when you get the back-to-back announcers for the same
Yeah,
game, it's great because they get what is it? They get 2.5 hours to build their rapport. Obviously, they have it, their experience doing it
right.
together. But like you and Joey were probably so much, and I listened a little bit. You were so much
Yeah.
better in game four. You were
Oh
great in
yeah.
game one, but like I think we need more announcer back-to-back moments because it's fun. You get the same voice for a couple games. You can then use it as, hey, I'm calling all the games of this tournament. Promo code Jake, get 10% off. It's like that's what we need more of is the back to backs.
Yeah, no, totally. And credit to those guys. I mean, I've just started we're recording this a week before those CBS games, and it's 4 teams, 2 games each day. Like it's 4 games, but only 4 teams to prep for. When the selection show drops, those broadcasters have from Sunday night until Thursday morning to prep for 8 teams, which is wild. So those 3 days, I'm sure, are very stressful, but also very exciting because look what it's leading up to. The best 4 days in sports, in my opinion, the first 2 rounds of the tournament.
So, do you want to do any football? Is that something you would like to make part of your real, like, do you like football? I see you shaking your head, so I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, totally. I've been fortunate to call a couple of bowl games on national television with Barstool on the CW, but unfortunately, that's not part of the plan anymore. The thing with football versus basketball is, to be honest, like I'm 29 years old, still trying to break in and get reps. There's so many more opportunities with basketball over football just because of the number of teams, right? There's 360 college basketball teams, Division One. There's a third of that in the college football world. So like, yes, I tried my best to get football this year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I still very much want that to be part of my plan in the long term. It's just the amount of seats available for football versus basketball just isn't as much for obvious reasons.
All right, two more questions before I get you out of here. First
Very
one,
good.
do you want to do soccer? Or are you going to come over to the TST side of things and give soccer a try?
Yeah, I would love to give it a shot. I mean, if it's anything like TBT, I'm sure. Do you guys have some sort, is it possible to do some sort of Elam Ending comparison in soccer?
We do it. You got to do your research, man. You're
I
talking all
do,
about
yeah. What
we
is
have
it?
it's target score time in soccer. So what happens is whoever's winning, like in the Elam ending at the end of the 40-minute game, 40-minute match, you add one to the winning team score. So if
Okay.
it's 5-2, it's first to six.
Okay.
And we've had some
So
like,
games could go forever.
well, then every 5 minutes, I think it's 5 minutes. There was a few rule changes from year one to year two, but every few minutes players come off the pitch. So eventually it becomes six
Oh,
on
so it's easier to
six,
score.
three
Yeah.
on three, and it's much easier to score. But we've had some crazy comebacks in the first few years where like teams are down 3-0, 4-1, 5-1 going into target score time, and they come all the way back. Last year, McAfee's team had like a crazy comeback. It was absolutely electric. So I actually think the soccer target score time is probably crazier than the Elam ending because sometimes it's like it's the second goal of the game or it's the third or the first goal of the game. It could be 0-0. So in basketball, it's yes, it's that final basket, but it's still like, okay, there's been 100 shots made in the game. There's been 60 shots made in the game. Versus soccer, it's like one of maybe three goals, which is so crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Don't get me wrong, though. If I do end up calling the tournament with you guys, I will have all the rules locked in by the time I get on the headset. Don't worry.
I trust that 100%. Um, Last question for you before we get you out of here. If you could go through the course of time, pick any player, any team, what game would you want to call? It could be a team, it could be a game that you watched. Like, what's like a moment that you were like, I would
So a
love to
moment
be.
that's already happened that I wish I was on the call for?
It could be like Freddie Freeman's grand slam, or it could be
No,
like,
definitely not that. I'm a Yankee fan.
or it could be like LeBron's record breaking points, or I would love to call a game where Steph goes crazy. You know, it could be like a player or something like that.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple. One would be uh on the topic of college basketball. I think Chris Jenkins, buzzer beater to win the tournament. Like that's like literally every kid's dream, right? A buzzer beater to win the national championship, to win March Madness. Like who wouldn't want that? And then another one, Tigers 2019 Masters would have been really cool. Jim Nance was lucky enough to have both of those, but I mean the call was great, the return to glory, and I think ever since that moment, everyone's just been hoping, what if he can run back Augusta 2019? And unfortunately, it hasn't happened. But there's always that hope that maybe he'll have that again. But that was one of the biggest comeback stories like in sports history, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Adjacent to that, actual last question. I feel like I'm stealing the last question thing
There you go.
from PFT where you just
PMP,
keep saying,
last question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. If you could be in the booth with anyone, who's your answer?
Oh,
Besides Joey, of course, because you've already done that.
yeah, exactly. Just anyone in the world.
Anyone? Well, I mean, not like Barack Obama, like
No,
someone
like
who's,
someone who's done games or
yeah,
is
yeah,
doing
play
games.
by play or analyst, just someone that you think you would vibe with in the booth for a full game.
Yeah, totally. I think it depends on the sport, but I'll go a little outside the box and try to speak things into existence. During my time at PMT, I've been fortunate enough to make some very cool relationships with some people. So, like one day when someone like Josh Allen retires, if he wants to go into broadcasting, I think that would be really cool just because like I met him a couple of times. We're similar age. Like I think the chemistry would be really good just because of that relationship that we've had, even though it's a small one in the past. Or someone like JJ Watt, who just retired, but I know is a PMT fan. Like, and he's actually doing some broadcasting now. He's with CBS. I think he's calling his first game in a few weeks.
Played in TST 2024.
Really?
Played.
That's awesome. So someone like that, and then a similar line, like one day when Max Homa hangs it up after winning 10 green jackets, if he wants to get in the booth, something like that would be a lot of fun.
Well, I think all of those are definitely possibilities for you because you're a rising star in the world of
Thank you.
broadcasting. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on and won't spoil anything, but I think we'll be talking again soon.
Totally. Thanks, Andrew. Really appreciate it.